All right, go ahead and turn this down. What is going on? I hope everybody's doing well. Mic check. Mic check. I think we're good. What's going on here? Deactivate, reactivate. Boom. This is the special angle today. We're going to be trimming Kiki Muddler heads for the first hour or so, chit-chatting. And then we'll tie some bunker flies. But to make the least amount of mess possible, this is what I rigged up here. Alright. But I hope everybody is doing well. We have the new striper video. It's not an episode of the new of the series. I was fishing this is the first fish we caught this year, and I was like, how do I make a video out of this? Because I was doing different fishing techniques, and I was like, well, let me do a little video on wet fly swinning, because essentially we were wet fly swinning and stripping the fly at the same time. So decided to make a little video on grease line fishing and wet fly swinning and all that. Whoa.
Congrats on all the bass.
On all the bass? You damn right. Yo, Jerry, turn it up. Boom. Thank you. Thank you, Craggerall, on all the bass. Yes. On all the bass over there you've been catching. It's like the worst text-to-speech. I'm probably using like the worst text-to-speech option possible, but we haven't changed it forever. There's so many good ones out there. But thank you, Craggerall. Appreciate that, my friend. How you doing? Yeah, we've been doing pretty well. We've actually been getting on somewhat of a worm bite, like a worm spawn. I don't know if it's the remnants or if it's an early kind of situation going on because of the moon coming up. But my buddy was on it like 4 days ago, and he hit me up. He was like, yo, you got to check this out. And I just went to my worm spot. He was fishing his worm spot, completely different places. So I think it's like some weird. Normally it happens like on the moon, but this was almost like in between moon cycles. I think a worm hatch happened. I don't know. It's very strange, and it wasn't a full blown one like we've seen in the streams where there's hundreds of fish boiling everywhere, and there's you know, what do you call it? There's worms everywhere. It was all like you would just see some fish boiling, and a lot of the fish were caught blind casting on worm flies. So I don't know if it's gonna happen or it already happened, or if another one will happen, or it was like a little mini one happened. But the bass were on it. So I have a couple of videos of me catching fish. Unfortunately, it was all at like night, so I had to turn on my light at one point, and it didn't really come out that good. The other one I caught like during the day. You can't really see the fish though in the end. You know, it's tough in low light conditions with the GoPro. But I was hoping to like physically see some good worm hatch or worm spawn. I should really try and start calling it, because that's what it is. I was really hoping to get some good footage with the GoPro, because everything we have is from a leftover from a stream, and the footage from the stream looks terrible. Unfortunately, just come the bit rate, but it is what it is what we got. You just got done watching? Yeah, thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Thanks for commenting on it. You'll probably end up being like one of the top commenters over the soon. So I appreciate you helping with the algorithm. But what's going on, Cozy? How you doing, man? So we're actually going to be tying a Sadati Slammer here soon for a customer. So I kind of want to do a prototype, if you will. So I got hooks, and Jay sent us some wig hair. We're going to play around with that, but I also have Slinky or Steve Farrar fiber as well. So we're going to mess around and tie some really big, essentially Mark Sadati style weighted, you know, like Montauk sort of Block Island fly. This person reached out to me wanting a fly for fishing off Montauk in the heavy rips and wanting to get down, and I said the best bet's probably fishing a big bunker fly that's heavily weighted and using heavy sinking lines. And, you know, we're talking 30 to 70 feet, which is kind of what we were talking about, right? And I need to look into some better sinking lines. I think I might just go with like a Cortland. You can get like 30 foot of sinking tip material, sink tip material, and like make your own fly line. Essentially, is what I might do. Use like that, or get a full sink line where the whole thing is just sinking. So I got to figure out what I'm gonna do, but the goal is get the boat fixed at some point. That's what this giant pile of flies is. So, which I got a lot done in the past couple days. So I haven't been making a ton of YouTube videos, but what I've been doing is just literally tying these kinky muddlers, or these rooster muddlers. So, but we got the new video up. I'm gonna have to work on some fly tying stuff. I'll film a couple fly tying stuff, but we're probably gonna start doing some fishing videos now. And I could just do videos where I go out and fish and stuff, but I kind of like doing some sort of educational thing when I go fishing. Even if it's just explaining what I'm doing, you know? So, post-work whiskey, and then you're tying up some buggers. Very nice. Yo, Southern Fly Guy, how's it going? Wolf, how you doing? You got the fly in the mail from the Twitch giveaway. Very nice. Paul, you're watching. Did you get your giveaway fly in the mail? So we are going to, which I need to send out the most recent stuff here soon. You did? Okay, good. I'm always glad. Kind of just ship it, throw it in an envelope and say, see ya. You're kind of like, sometimes I don't know if it's going to get there or not. But I was, you know, regular like bubble wrap shipping. I just shipped out 3 flies today. $560 something to go to Massachusetts. So I was doing that for the giveaway stuff, and it was too much. It was adding up. But luckily it works in an envelope. So good old U.S. stamp right on it. That's all you need. You can buy a whole bucktail with that. Saved a little bit, yeah. So, what we're doing right now is I'm just trimming a bunch of kinky muddlers. Rooster muddlers. And, you know, all of this beautiful slinky fiber that I've scoured the country for is now going into the wastebasket. And that's the life cycle of the kinky muddler fly. So, I really, you know, I think I found a nice ratio of not putting too much material on, but just enough and at the right length for the right size fly. It only took me about 100 of them to figure it out, but because at the start we were certainly wasting some material. Like, they need to be heavily dressed enough to where when you trim it, you have a nice body and you don't have any gaps. The biggest thing I struggle with this fly is the hollow tie set, near the front. You have to make sure that you do the least amount of thread wraps, just like any hollow fly, but you also need to ensure that you... Is this focusing, by the way? Let me see, make sure I zoom in a little. You need to ensure that there's not too much of a gap, so it's okay. It doesn't affect the way the fly swims. It's just a matter of getting them perfect, right? Because I tried to do that, but definitely going to be a master at this fly by the end of the month, if not already. So we'll offer the synthetic head trimming course. There you go. So it's pretty simple. I mean, pretty simple. Especially when you use the finger as a guide. which is really important. Instead of just like kind of going at it, using my thumb and using the natural curve of my thumb to help guide how I trim it. Depending on where I put it, I can get a more drastic angle as well. And it's a 3-dimensional fly, so I'm always turning the fly and trimming it at the same time, of course. You see, you get a little sort of gap right there. We're going to have the eye there anyway, so it's fine, but just something I'm trying to get nice and perfect, you know what I mean? It's only on some of them, and I think I found that you don't want to tie too much material in the V-tie right before it, and you also want to tie your hollow ties with the least amount of thread wraps as possible. You want to secure the material for the hollow tie, quote unquote, at the front with the least amount of thread wraps. And you'll end up with the less of a thread bump to give you that annoying gap that we're trying to avoid. But, you know, that's the fish don't care. That's just for us. As long as it swims upright and the right profile, that's all that matters. So, because what I'm going to do after this is then use E6000, secure some eyes, and then I'll take liquid fusion, and we're going to do a liquid fusion step. I'm not doing all that right now. I'm going to do that after the stream, but I wanted to catch up, chit-chat, read chat. As a new tyer, that's been the trickiest thing for me, is getting the right amount of material on the fly. 5 of my glass minnows are all a little bit different sizes. Yep. And that's one of the things that it comes down to it with even each individual fly pattern. You can spend, there's probably people that only tie one fly, like clouds or minnows, and they look great. But even if they're very experienced in fly tying different techniques, different flies, you have to try different things because you're not used. It's all repetition. It's just like playing guitar or shooting a bow or fly casting. It's a matter of repetition. So you're working on your fine motor skills essentially when you're working the thread, and you're getting used to the movements and manipulating the thread and how much material to put on at the right length, how much material to put on the hook so that the natural weight of the hook keels the fly and it swims upright. You know, that's a big thing with trimming these flies. You have to trim enough material. If you fish it like this right now, it's just going to sit there on the water and spin around. So that's why we need to take enough material off that it'll swim properly. And it's kind of like a fine line at times, but there's give and take, of course, with it, you know. But it's just all a matter of repetition and practice, essentially, and doing it. Now, there are people that can probably do it the first time and just do it right, whether they're new or not, you know, or whether they're experienced. But for a lot of us, including me, it takes a while. And even if I don't tie these for years, let's say, I might come back, I might have to like almost relearn, you know, the ratios and all that. Because I'm not like pre-portioning my material like some people do. Sometimes I would do that for other flies, like surf candies, but it would just be almost too much work to prepare so many V-ties instead of just having a pile of material and picking it up and tying it on. So you kind of have to get used to how much material you're going to put on there for each tie to be consistent. Now, if you're tying a smaller amount of flies, you could cut all or like prepare it ahead of time, just so you're if you're having issues with being consistent. But you know, it is good to just go one by one with your flies and just get better by practicing, you know. What I would suggest too, if you're let's say you're talking about the overall length, use points on your vise as a reference. I don't want to move my vise right now because it's got weight on for this bag here, but let's say the vise is this fly right here, the vise head, and you have the hook here and the back of the fly is here, and there's the little knob or something on the Regal or whatever, or there's some sort of mechanical device that's in the flies right at the end there. I use that as a reference point. And a lot of times I'll pre-measure my flies. I'll put a 4/0 in the hook. I know that they ordered they want this fly at 6-inch. So what I do is I put the 4/0 in the hook and I measure and I find a point on the Regal. The Regal has a medallion on it, but it also I can go back to where the vise head meets the rotary section of the vise, and there's little bands on it. There's the knob. There's all sorts of little reference points that you can use, and I do that for commercial time because I have to be consistent, and I'm not going to measure each fly every time I do that. You know, take out a tape measure and measure the hook and how long the feathers are. The little stuff like that I just learned over the years to just make things easier. And you can totally apply this stuff to your regular fly tying, not commercial. You know, make things just more consistent. Gonna have to use, yeah, but dude, Sandman, if you're in Massachusetts, bro, you gotta be swinning those flies. You know what I mean? You're even closer to Rhode Island than me. That means you could potentially gain superpowers. If you're in Rhode Island, I mean, you're born with a 10.5-foot fly rod in your hand, swinging flies, flat wings. Even your deceivers are tied with flat wings when you're born in Rhode Island. But yeah. You just need current. So think about how many different channels, canals, beach faces. You can even swing flies in the surf by casting parallel to the beach and letting your fly tumble down in the wash. You've probably even potentially done that before if there were fish blitzing. But yeah, you're on an island, I'm on an island, we got a lot of current. It sucks the spot that's close to my house. It almost has virtually no current because it's almost the exact sort of place that you want to swing flies. You know? And you don't necessarily always want a ton of current, but that's where mending the line comes into play and stuff like that. Now, I will say you need to tie your flies on lighter hooks if you really want them to like grease line fishing, for instance. If you tie that on a big Arex, like this Gamakatsu's okay, and this amount of current in the current I was fishing, this sort of hook's okay. If we're fishing a bigger Arex, blue water, it might sink too much with a grease line technique because there's no drag on the fly, so the fly can just naturally sink. Now, mind you, I was fishing about a 10-foot leader with that with a floating line, so there's still drag from the floating line in terms of it being on the surface, but you got to think about hook weight as well, and that's why I was fishing with that Eagle Claw. And then you got to think about the hook potentially being bent. Now, I did kind of hook that fish outside of, like, outside of the mouth on top of the lip, so it had more leverage to it. But I mean, it's amazing how striped bass can use the current to their advantage. So there was a lot of current rip in there. Like, I can swing a beast fly if I want there, a really big beast fly. But yeah, it was good. But we've been getting on some worm stuff, so get ready. I don't know, maybe check your worm spots. We had some sort of weird worm stuff going on before the moon. I'm hoping that they kind of pop off here. But you know what? We also have a new moon coming up near the end of the month, so I'm kind of thinking that might be the case as well. But I don't know. I think every worm pond is different. Every worm population's different. I don't think they continually spawn every new moon or every full moon. I think it's certain times of the year for each pond. I'm not really 100% certain. We got to get a local college to like give me money so I can go out and fish every full moon and report back. Measure the worms and the bass. Get a grant. Yep, I'm gonna need about 10 grand, about 3 pallets of Guinness and White Claws. Personal driver, obviously. We gotta be safe. Multiple times. I guarantee you, like, I was telling one of the dudes that I worked for who does commercial stuff, I was like, I guarantee you could probably, like, convince them to build an institute for bunker and, like, have, like, a whole thing describing how, like, bunker are so important, and you can, like, bring your boat there and unload the fish, and they can, like, do stuff, and people can come and visit and stuff like that, and they can have, like, showing whales eating them and the striped bass. And, like, they pay you to do everything to make money. I was like, I guarantee you could probably do it somehow. But no. It's New York State. They love spending money on stuff. Though something like that would be awesome. You know what I mean? I bet you could do it. Be like, yeah, I'm going to need a brand new boat for this. Because obviously, you know, the old one, they would be like, oh my God, is this even like safe? Like the work boats. Yeah, we're going to need a brand new contender. But, yeah, speaking of bunker, we're going to be tying some bunker flies. So I'm excited. The last big slammer we tied was with the hair extension, or the wigs, I should say. Not the wigs, yeah, the hair extensions. Because they are technically, I guess, technically different. But, definitely want to work on it. I think we're going to, having one of Mark's flies here is going to make things a lot easier for me to try and replicate the true massive scale of the fly. You know what I mean? Luckily, with this sort of fishing, you're not going to be casting them, even though you can cast them if you're Mark Sadati on a 5-weight, but it's all thanks to really the lead keel. But that being said, it's still a giant fly. But in this sort of fishing, what you do is you, like, maybe cast 10 or 15 feet or roll cast out, and then you're drifting above 30 to 70 foot of structure and things like that where the striped bass hang out near the end of Long Island, essentially out in the ocean. And the water's moving so fast in these spots that the boat is drifting very fast as well. So you need a fly and fly line that can get down deep and can actually reach 70 feet before the drift is over. You know what I mean? So, and that's where these giant striped bass hang out 30 to 80, 90 foot on these, like, offshore humps in the structure out in the ocean, and they're eating these at depth. They're eating bunker and herring and all sorts of stuff, porgies. The old timers would used to fish like porgies and stuff like that for striped bass, as well as like juvenile fluke things, you know, all sorts of stuff, which you're not allowed to do. But in the 60s and 70s, you know, they're I'm sure they had a 12-pack of beer on the boat too at all times back then. So we're going to keep trimming for a bit. Probably another 30 minutes, and then we'll tie a bunker fly. We'll tie a big slammer. Get some of my chattiness out of the way. But has anyone been doing any fishing, any tying? What's everyone been up to? While we catch up here. By the way, I gotta take all of these, glue eyes on them, slap some slap some liquid fusion on there. So we're gonna tie this bunker fly after trimming for a while, and then I'm shutting the stream off, which is gonna be a while. We're gonna be streaming for a bit tonight. The bunker fly is gonna take a while, and we're gonna be like conceptualizing how we tie it. But I gotta get all this done because they're picking these flies up tomorrow. So it's killing me that I'm not doing any of that. Are you at least like are you still in India or somewhere? Maybe we're like riding an elephant. I don't know. Get the new Oblivion remake. That's what you should do. That's what I want to do. I might just get it on Game Pass because the Game Pass is like $1 for 2 weeks. So I keep scamming the Microsoft. Like I get it for like 2 weeks, played Stalker 2, beat it, like speed ran it because there were so many bugs that caused me to take 2 weeks to beat it. And then I canceled the Game Pass because they want to charge you $15. And then you wait a little bit and then they're like, hey, you want to try the Game Pass for $1 for 2 weeks and play Oblivion Remake? I'm like, I think, yeah, sure, it's a good time. Problem is, I don't really want to speedrun that. It's the sort of game where you kind of want to just play it over time. Because I don't think I ever played Oblivion back in the day. Elder Scrolls Oblivion, but pretty certain I had Skyrim and I played it. And I want to say I played Morrowind, but not Oblivion. I've been playing Fallout New Vegas. Sorry, we're getting a little nerdy here. Also, what's going on, Sonny Kim? How you doing? But I've been playing some Fallout New Vegas. Terrible, terrible PC port. The game's amazing. I played that one before, but on Steam, the mouse acceleration, I had to go in and change the INI files. The game's just crashing constantly, which is ridiculous. And the frame rate's like terrible at times. So I think I need to mod it to even make it playable, but I don't know if I want to go through all that. And then I played Elden Ring not long ago. That was great. I had a lot of fun. And they got the co-op version, online version coming out, so that might be cool. All right, enough gamer talk. On the other, what do you call it? What happened yesterday? Was it yesterday? No, 2 nights ago. When me and my buddy Nick went and caught some fish. I think I had one fish that was like 31, 32 inches. And all we've been fishing is the articulated worm, cinderworm gurgler. The fly's fantastic. It just kills it. Even when it's not moving. I was rolling a cigarette. I like casted it out there. It's probably like 9 something, 10 o'clock at night, pitch black. And I was rolling a cigarette in like the dark. And all of a sudden my fly line just like came tight. And I had a pretty nice fish on. So I had to abandon my Dury. So it was just like literally dead drifting in the current, and the articulated tail was like just doing this the whole time. But so it was pretty good. But what happened the other night when I caught that one fish that was like 31, 32 inches, and all these fish are like fat. Every fish we've caught has been really healthy. Like all 28 to like 32 inches. Like nothing really under than that. Maybe some 26 inch. But they're literally all like slot sized. And healthy fish too. And my guide ceramic popped out of my lower guide on my switch rod. And fell down the backing. And as I was reeling, I thought it would just like tumble there. But it got sucked into the spool, and I had to then back off the backing because I was into the backing like 25, 30 feet, and get the ceramic out and then use my finger against the backing without cutting it, and the ceramic was just bouncing on top of my finger as I was reeling in, because otherwise that ceramic would have been on the spool, and like the whole time I was worried because the backing was rubbing on the guide without the ceramic. So I took the ceramic and then like popped it back in, but it just kept falling out. So I landed that fish. And what I did afterwards is I took fluorocarbon and I put uni knots around the guide and the ceramic on the sides. And I fished like that for the rest of the night. It was fine. Caught some more fish. So that was interesting. I did like a jerry rig, just kind of MacGyvered it so I could keep fishing. But that had me a little worried because I thought I was going to like rub through the backing or something. That was a nice fish though. I got that whole thing on video. You just can't see the fish at the end because when I point down, I keep the fish in the water. I'm not lifting them out of the water anymore. After seeing catch and release mortality ratios, I'm not like really trying to handle fish that much. So I always keep them in the water because I'm fishing my waders. And just point the GoPro down. I'm not like trying to lift them out. which a lot of times they are very resilient, but every second, like, you know, after a heavy fight like that, that you handle fish, the more likely they are that they're gonna die, essentially. So keep fish wet, right? So you don't get to see it in the end, but that's all right. It was a nice fight, and it was hectic because my guide fell off. But unfortunately, no daytime worm activity like we had in the past, because I want to film some so I can do a good video on worm hatches. I have the stream footage, but I might wait to do it until like June, because there are going to be more worm hatches. Maybe we can find some more. Or maybe it'll happen in 3 or 4 days, or it'll happen at the end of the month. I don't know. That is really the mystery of worm spawns. Some of them are, like, some of them I found over the years happen once every, like, 5-10 years. Certain ponds and stuff. Some of them happen genuinely, like, every year. Because I think it just depends on the worm population, how healthy it is, and whatever. You know what I mean? Whether there's enough of the right substrate and bottom to hold these worms. So, like, I'm going to have to do some research, too, because there's a lot that you can look into when it comes to that particular, the roost worm. I feel like there's a lot of scientific sort of stuff that goes into that can help you determine or become like a better worm hatch fisher by like learning what triggers it, which I'm certain it's almost all moon cycle, but I don't know. I feel like there's some sort of atmospheric or environmental condition other than moon that sets it off, because we had a hatch, like a little hatch or spawn that happened just recently, and it's in between a moon cycle. So I don't know, very strange. I think that one happened like 4 or 5 days ago, and we only caught the tail end of it, because I have not seen a bunch of worms all over the surface or anything like that. Which, when you see it, you see it. It's like a National Geographic event. There's literally like thousands, if not tens of thousands of these worms all over the place, on the surface, under the surface, and there's just bass like boom, 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 boiling, blowing up. I think one of the reasons why we did pretty well fishing and stuff, even though we were just kind of blind casting, like the fish were taking the flies pretty well, was that there wasn't a ton of worms. So our worm flies were like, they were like, oh, look at this, you know, and they hopped on it. Because when there's literally thousands or tens of thousands of worms, it becomes that sort of situation where it's like, even if your fly looks like a worm, you almost don't want it to look exactly like a worm because there's tens of thousands of worms. You know what I mean? It's like you almost need to get lucky, or you got to really just put it right in front of them. That's what we found fishing worm hatches, is you wait for the boil and you just drop the fly right where the boil is. You almost have to be like ready. Or you have to just really be on point, like picking that fly up and chucking it real quick. Because there's so much competition for your fly, or, you know, against your fly when it comes to real worms, that it really can be tough. Just like when there's millions of bay anchovies and the false albacore are just running through them with their mouth open, it almost seems like it. You know, like, the fish are like not even hitting your fly trying to eat it, they're just bumping into it. You know, you're like, what's going on? But there are times where the fish will do that, even straight bass. They just swim through a school of bait with their mouth open. They're not even hunting like a specific target, which that's how they hunt. That's how they feed. They'll like target a bait out of the group. Sometimes when the bait is so packed, they just swim right through it like it's a buffet, you know? So by the way, what I'm doing here is I like to trim the top and bottom first, get a rough outline. Then I kind of go for the 3D profile on the bottom a little. And now we still have to glue eyes, so there could be one more step of trimming here. But I kind of just work out the rough shape. And just trim it down on the sides as well is very important. Otherwise it will not swim right. And I just kind of lay it down on my hand, and I'm not angling my scissors purposefully really hard. I'm just kind of pressing my scissors down. So some of the material pokes up through the scissors. Essentially. Call it the palm trim technique. What video software do you use? I use free version of DaVinci Resolve by Blackmagic Cameras, which they make like really high quality cameras. But DaVinci Resolve is really great. I used to use Premiere Pro, and after spending so much money and having it crash so many times, I said screw Adobe. And for editing like thumbnails and stuff like that, or graphic sort of stuff, I use Critera. I don't know. One of my friends who does a lot of graphic design, and he's essentially like an artist and stuff. He pointed me to that, and it's free, and it's like almost like Photoshop, but it's definitely, you have to learn it somewhat, but it's not that hard for basic text and, you know, for that blur in the back behind the text and cropping stuff, whatever, you know, for a thumbnail. But all free, baby. Photoshop is really great, and like After Effects is really nice. After Effects is how I did all of the laser beams and like stuff and all my music video stuff for Little Peacock. But yeah, some of the Adobe stuff, it like, I don't know, I was just having issues on PC especially. Maybe if you have like a Mac, but even then, it's notorious for anyone who edits like with Photoshop. And you do this in general, even though I very rarely have DaVinci Resolve crash on me. Imagine working on a video for like 2 hours and then it crashes and you didn't save and you lose all the progress. That happened to me multiple times on what's it called? I already forgot the name of it. The Adobe one, whatever it is, Premiere Pro. So you just get in the habit of hitting Control Save every time you like do something half the time. Which, if you don't know, Control C to copy, Control S to save, right? Control X to well, that's, never mind, I should say Control Z to go back, stuff like that. Those are basic like commands on Windows that could be very useful for your day-to-day activities. But for instance, in DaVinci Resolve, Control X is deletes or cut a clip without deleting, because when you delete, it automatically moves your whole timeline. You could screw up, you know, how certain things are. So just little things like that. Like if I didn't know how to do that cut and then pull up the trimming, you know, go from moving icon to trim and stuff with just hotkeys, it literally has saved me probably an hour or 2 hours per editing video. So used to take me like almost another 2-3 hours some videos. That video today, I edited, where I like did the video editing in terms of like cutting it together and doing some of the just basic text stuff the other day, and then today I did some basic like you know, went on Google Maps, found just a random place that is the shoreline that could have current, and just took a red thing and, you know, red paint and just drew some basic graphic, you know. Looks like crap, but that's alright. Doesn't need to be much for fishing. And did my voiceover stuff and then edited it. So probably took me, I'd say, probably like 4 or 5 hours in total, that video. How to wet fly swing with voiceover work and everything. Power Director 365. Yeah. No, get DaVinci Resolve. Works good. Now, I don't know if you're working on a potato, but, you know. DaVinci Resolve has been like the least, I feel like, resource-heavy editing software I've used, which is, as well, one of the reasons. Now, there are certain things that, you know, doing any sort of visual effects, certain animations like graphics and titles on a video, like cards, can cause you, even my pretty good gaming PC with, you know, pretty good CPU and GPU and all that to have issues. So and it also depends if you're editing and filming in 4K, like that's going to be a big deal. So you can like edit the work in 1090, you know what I mean? And then, or 1080 by 1920 or whatever it is, 1920 by 1080, yada, yada, yada. And then export it in 4K. Vice versa. Little things like that can help. You can also change like your review quality and all these software stuff. You should be able to, at least. So you can change the quality down so while you're just editing it, it's not adding too much workload to your PC. So that might help you. Yeah, check out DaVinci Resolve. It's very self-explanatory, I feel like. Worst case, you look at YouTube videos. Worst case, you don't know something, look it up on YouTube. There's probably somebody that's dedicated their whole channel to it. Like me with time flies. And fly fishing. Some dude, Casey Ferris, I think is one that's a good DaVinci Resolve channel. I'll help you out. Because there's just cutting clips, and then there's like trying to get better with color grading or audio, having the right sound levels, and how to grade your audio right. Or level it, whatever. Ooh, baby. That's a lot of kinky muddlers. A lot of rooster muddlers. Which, oh, so I remember I told you guys we were cutting up. This is what I have left, I think. And this is, a lot of this is SF blend. But I used most of the Slinky fiber. And remember, we cut up 6 packs of white Slinky fiber and off-white. So it was combined 6. And then took a pack of SF blend, which a lot of it is that. And let's see, what did we do? We had the gray, right? Yeah. And the white. Yeah, so we did 24 white. We did 24 gray over white, so that's 48. And then I had 19, now I have 11, was it? So I did about 64 odds around with all that white Slinky fiber. And that was really just for the bellies. I mean, the white ones obviously are all white, but the gray over white, tan over white had other colors. So there was more Slinky fiber, but... And then I finished up the tan over white. So really, I mean, in reality, I think I got out of 6 packs of white Slinky fiber, and I still have some left. But 6 packs of white Slinky fiber, I got about 80 kinky muddler bellies or the whole head, which is a lot of material. So yeah, we got about 80 flies. Now, mind you, some of them were all of the body, like this white one, right? But then there was the gray over white or something, right? So that's pretty interesting, though. So then figure there's at least 1 pack of tan for the tan ones, or something, 1 pack of gray for the gray ones. And so I guess all the flies here on the table would be 8 packs of Slinky fiber for about around 80 flies, which it's about a pack of Slinky fiber for 10 to 12 flies. Just to give you an idea. Now you're always going to end up with waste. You're going to end up, while you're working with this stuff, you're going to have a giant pile on the ground that you can grab and then blend up. I have a bunch of blended Slinky fiber, and this is all the tan and white that kept falling on the ground, on my lap. You know, I had like, every time you work with like, you know, you get done with 10 to 12 flies, you just are covered in Slinky fiber and Steve Farrar fiber. So I take this and I blend it. There's probably a little bucktail mixed in there. There might even be, there's mono thread as well in there, but I keep this because you can easily use this, you know what I mean? And I'll just make some versions for myself or something. with these, and it's essentially like a custom blend of slinky fiber and SF, so even better. It's just not picture perfect like white for the belly or something that most people want. But there you go, that's the math. I wonder if anyone, I guess you could probably tie them a little sparser, like these smaller ones you could tie a little sparser because you just end up trimming more off. So finding the right ratio, you know. Now, could you do anything with this? I mean, I don't really know if you could really do anything with all this stuff. I'm going to have a literal shopping bag full of, I mean, we're already about 1/6, or I'd say 1/8 full of this shopping bag full of trimmings. From, I'd say at this point we probably trimmed about 60 flies. I was trimming them early before the stream. I really find that interesting, though, that you get about, from 10 packs, you get about, was it? Yeah, about 10 packs, 80 flies. So it's actually more than a pack for 12 flies, or 10 flies. But like I said, you could probably thin them out just a little bit. We should do that more often. I should start figuring out the how much I'm getting out of like a patch of saddle hackle. Now mind you though, I use it for so many different things, right? It's a lot easier when you're tying one fly to get an accurate representation of how much that bag of material is going. You know, how long it's going. Whether it's going the distance or not, you know? And you're getting your money's worth. Per se. Alright, well, I'm about trimmed out here soon. We're going to tie a bunker fly. I'll go hit the hookah lounge. Let's trim a couple more. I'm running out of things to blab about, so it's about time we tie a big old bunker fly. I gotta do some blabbing, though. I'm naturally a talkative person, so streaming works out great. Do a little kinky muddler trimming at the front of the stream, you know. Talk myself out a little bit, and then we can start working on the vise. Yeah, I'm definitely copywriting this technique. It's called the palm trim. It's the forbidden technique, really. Well, not forbidden, but advanced tier 3. If there was a color rating, it would be orange. It's just so nice and convenient, you know what I mean, to be able to like take it and kind of let the natural weight of the scissors kind of trim that material and not have to worry about trimming down. Because if you trim down like this, you can just cut right into the fly and just essentially destroy it. Like, not even joking. You could just, you know, well, might as well throw that one away. It's very convenient to be able to quickly trim the fly. Now, funny thing is, I wonder if I took a heavier pair of scissors, like if the same size pair of scissors and everything, length, dimension, proportions, but it was twice the weight, I probably would end up trimming more of the material off because of the weight, like how much pressure I'm able to put down on the material. So I guess it probably is dependent on the scissors you're using as well, too. How well it'll work. But I'm sure it's a minute detail, but certain scissors, you know, you might be like, why was that like that? Alright. Well, I still have about 20 more to trim, but I'm not going to make you guys sit here and look at this well, let's be honest, it's quite an awkward camera angle. So let's turn this up. Now that's a sight right there. Check that out. Mm-hmm. What do you think? If you were going rooster fishing for a month, would that be enough flies? Now, mind you, this is for a lot of people, so, and I still got a lot more to tie. But I'd say if I was going rooster fishing, I would be pretty set. If it was just me and I had this whole fucking... There's literally like... And some of these are done. I wasn't counting those because those I tied earlier. There's probably about 100 on here right now on the table. Or more, actually, but... I still got some olive over white 2 odds to finish. I got 20 tan over white 4 odds to finish. I got 18 gray over whites, and I got some 24 all white 2 odds. So they're mostly smaller ones, which is good. It's not going to take as much material. How long per? I couldn't tell you. I do them in batch. I do them in sections and in batches. So, but I would say per fly, it probably takes me about... I mean, you got to do the tail, then you do the V-ties, the trimming. I mean, it could be 15, 20 minutes per fly. But I don't know. It's like that's if I was just tying it straight, like in one shot. We could probably tie one in 15 or 20 minutes. But it might honestly just be quicker because I'm tying all the feathers at once. So I'm only picking up feathers. And then I do all the marabou. And then I do all of the slinky fiber. So I have all of my slinky fiber set up on the table. So I don't have to grab feathers, then marabou, then slinky fiber, and then glue, you know. So by doing it in batches like this, you're able to speed up the process and also be consistent because you're tying everything. You're doing all the sections at once. So you're generally, if you're doing all of your feathers at once, all of the feathers are going to be like the same, you know, things like that as well. So, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say really, you know what I mean? When you're doing it in like this is over the course of like a month too. Obviously I tied a bunch of really a lot of this was tied in like the past week. But you guys saw me doing like the tail sections, I think, during one stream, and like the marabou we were doing for some of these flies and stuff like that. One thing is I got to move all this crap, which I don't want to, but I have to. So let's do that. Now, the only issue is after working with all this stuff and trimming it, if I took this and flicked it right now, there'd be a bunch of tiny little slinky fiber microplastics going up in the air. Just waiting to go into my bloodstream, so we're just going to take all these and lay them out all nice and neat. They're going to get glued up with eyes, 3D eyes later, and then I have to sit down and do all the liquid fusion. So we're not going to be streaming super long tonight because what you see, I need to finish tonight. So we're going to tie one of these bunker flies, and then I'm getting the hell out of here because I got a lot of this stuff to finish. Okay, arguably I should probably end the stream here, but I'm gonna, you know, we gotta tie a slammer after talking it up. But definitely, if you haven't too, when the stream's done, if you haven't watched the new striper video, go check it out. How to wet fly, swing, or grease line fish for striped bass. You wanna be like Jock Scott, go salmon fishing, but for stripers? It's kind of like a basic explanation. It was also me going and catching a fish and trying to figure out how I can make it into a video. So, while I was wet fly swimming and grease line fishing, I said, you know what? This might be a good time. Because we can do a more in-depth video for each thing, you know. I would love to get like drone shots of fly line, stuff like that, you know. So you could see how it's swimming and straightening out and all this stuff. But, you know, we're working with what we got. All right. Now, surprisingly, that wasn't that bad of a mess. Even though there is a bunch of little bits of slinky fiber all around, probably in the air. I had that bag. Excuse me, Val. And we trimmed it like that. I had the bag set up like this. That's a nice little trick, too. If you're trimming some sort of like snake fly or something, grab yourself like a shopping bag, put it in your lap, and just trim the fly in there. You can even put your vise in the bag and then have it around it, because some of these flies, man, just make such a mess, like trimming deer hair. It's almost like it's spring-loaded mine or something, and all the hair just starts flying all over the place. So, But I usually end up vacuuming once a day, and it still doesn't seem like it's enough because I'm tying 10 hours a day. So. But all right. Anyways, let's we're gonna tie. Let me. Okay, we got to get hooks. I have all this stuff. So where is it? We're gonna be tying bunker flies, eh? We got lead wire and we got hooks. So, real quick, like. All right, so I'm using Arexes. Mic check, mic check. Is it working? Hold on. I got like my crappy headphones from when I was in high school plugged into a 3.5 millimeter audio jack into my mixer. So it doesn't always have a perfect connection. All right, we got Arex Blue Water 6 odds. Pretty heavy duty hooks. We got half-inch hologram eyes. Unfortunately, I couldn't get 3D eyes, but essentially the same thing. We got 0.05 diameter lead wire, which let me just zoom in here. Because we're going full Sadati slammer style keel on this fly. And for the real tryhards out there, and this is just a joke, this is probably a good idea, is for trailer hooks. Because what Mark does with his bunker flies, he has wire set up in a loop, and you can slip on a trailer hook. Because a lot of times when you're fishing a 12-inch bunker fly, and even if it's 30-pound bass, they still will hit the bunker kind of near the rear, and they don't always hit it near the head. So you will miss fish. So if you want, you can fish with the trailer hook. Maybe you can almost, I'm curious what circle hooks in the rear would be like, But I just worry about, God forbid, I catch a 60-pound bass and I gill hooked it after fighting it for 20 minutes, You'd see me crying on stream. But this is 40-pound camo, and we're going to be using this. We're essentially going to be looping it off the back, and then you have the option to fish a trailer hook, or you just leave it off. You could always cut it off. But the idea is you want to have the option to fish a trailer hook, especially when the fly's $30. So, all right. Which, by the way, how big? Yeah, it's like $10 for this pack of hooks for like 5 hooks. Which, if you were going for, 100-pound tuna, this is the sort of hook you use. And we're using it for stripers, so. Which, honestly, with something like this, you probably don't even need a full-size Sadati keel, but we're going to go full-size Sadati keel. So not only, this is heavier than the hook that Mark's using. By putting all that weight on there, this thing's going to sink, which is what you want when you're fishing in 70 foot of water, right? But yeah, I mean, this is like, let me show you what this hook looks like. This is the Arex Blue Water. This is just like it's virtually like a tuna bait hook. It's a little thinner, a little less of an eye. But, I mean, you're going to have no problem. You're going to break a rod probably before the hook bends or something, All right. But first, we are going to take a break. All right. I'm going to go grab a drink. I'm going to stretch my legs. We've been sitting down for a while. I've been looking at rooster muddlers for the past 3 weeks. So we're going to tie a slammer. And then I got to get back to work. But we're going to have some fun and tie a nice big bunker fly so I can take a break from the muddlers real quick. But that being said, we are going to take a quick little break. So don't go anywhere. We're going to throw on the classic Albie highlight because I haven't caught an Albie for 2 years now. On the 3rd year, if you don't catch an Albie, they say on the 3rd year, you turn to stone. So that's going to be, it's pretty dire straits. We're on the 3rd one. So, but anyways, we'll be back in a little bit. dude. Yeah, dude. Stay tight, alright? Yeah, keep it tight. Yeah, dude. Yeah, Aiden. Knuckle buster. Are you good? Do you need me to do anything?
Yeah, I might need a ride. Yes.
Okay. Hold on, I'm gonna turn now.
I'm gonna try and get on the valve.
Yeah, get on the valve. Alright, you're doing good. Keep doing your thing. I'm gonna move us away.
Is that a little one?
No, that's a nice one.
Oh, let's go!
Come here, hold next to your alley. Good job.
That's sick.
Alright. Nice.
Go! Woo! Albie slap!
Good job, kid.
Yee!
Looking down the barrel of a 12-gauge little tuny, bro. On the alligator too. Oh my god, dude! What the fuck? Woohoo! Oh my god! Yep. All right, and we're back. Okay. So, ginormous bunker flies. Luckily, we have a reference. That sucker right there. So, you want to know how you catch 30, 40 pounders at depth? You throw one of these. Now, this is a fish catch and fly. All yellow. No flash. No nothing. We're going to dress ours up because we're tying this for somebody. But you don't need it. That's all you need right there. And we have a beautiful selection of some wig hair. So I don't know if I'm actually going to tie this one. This might be our own personal fly, and we're just figuring out the stats. But we have a beautiful selection of wig hair. from Jay Bartow. Finally, we're going to be using it. Jay Fish, who watches the channel. And we're going to tie a big old fly. Now you can use synthetic yak. It's something that you could use. You can use Steve Farrar fiber or Slinky fiber for a fly like this. A lot of times, I would say this is very similar consistency to Slinky fiber. A lot of this wig hair. A little bit softer, but I would say a lot of it, and the other stuff is more like akin to Supreme hair or Super hair for surf candies. The thing is, with wig hair, you can get it into 18 inches, 20 inches long, which you're not going to be able to buy Slinky fiber, Steve Farrar fiber, or yak hair at that sort of length. So we can V-tie, we can do all sorts of stuff with this, vice versa. Now, one of the main important things is we have this beautiful slammer here. So we're going to get some proportions, which I don't have. We're going to just essentially, I don't have a tape measure here, so I don't even know what the exact size of this is. Big old hook too. Is that going to sit right? Let's go back one. Can we go on the front one? We should be able to. Yeah, there we go. So, but what about this hook? Where are we going to have this hook? I guess it doesn't matter in reality. I mean, this is a big boy back here. We're going to have to go back here, I think. Can we even get this in there? Oh, shit. Usually we have no problem. I might need to use my old vise head because it's more worn out, I feel like. Usually I used to be able to slip these into my old one, but this one's not fitting. Look at that. All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to use my old vise head, I think, which I still luckily have. Which when I first got this new one, I was having a hard time putting larger hooks in, but now we have had no issue. Now, mind you, this is literally a gargantuan hook, It's quite large. And my old vise head should fit it, though. If I can find it, that is. If I'm not wrong. Let's see. That's one of the jaws. I want them to just give me a new head, but keep the old jaws because the jaws are worn out and they fit really, really big hooks very nicely. Now, this is the sort of hook that probably most vices would. It depends on the jaw design, but some of my old vices and stuff, you couldn't even fit hooks like this in. The Regals have grooves. A lot of times you can slip them in there if they're gargantuan, but yeah, see this one. See, this jaw head is more worn out. So we could fit it in there. All right. So we're going to go from hook eye to hook eye. So this fly is going to be about the length of my vise, essentially, from the hook eye. So that's what we're shooting for. I'll put that one off to the side. That's why I want these jaws. They fit big old hooks from just being worn out over time. This is essentially like a shark or a tuna hook, right? It's quite a large hook. So, do we want to use mono for this? I kind of want to use flat wax nylon, to be honest with you, which we are going to use. Instead of the mono for especially securing something like a keel. That'll be a little bit easier or better, I think. So, by the way, what's the largest fly you guys have ever thrown size-wise? Anyone that fly fishes here, what's the largest fly that you've thrown and actually tried to fish? I think the biggest one we've ever fished was probably like 14 inches. Some sort of large tube fly for sharks or something. I'd say this fly is probably around 12, 13 inches. probably around 12 inches or something. Maybe a little larger. Oh, let's get the camera set up. My bad. We are tying quite a large fly, so we don't want to go too zoomed in here. All right, so starting off with the keel. Man, I tell you what, this hook's going to be heavy for sure. It's not going to be a but hey, we want weighted flies. That's the whole idea here. Weighted flies. So, we are going to wrap lead wire to start. It's going to be about 1/2 inch long. So, it's going to be somewhere from like here to here. Because we want room to work around the hook point and room around the front. Now, remember we tried figuring this out before. What would be the best way? I think we just want to... Did we just like start it by hand, or how did we do this last time? You know, I guess we're just going to run it. The thing is, when you run it like this, we want to make sure that we don't have a bump, but you know what? It'll be fine. I think you want to just have it barely secured. There you go. Because I don't want a big bump there at the end of it on top of itself. So you can kind of just loosely secure it, and then we could start wrapping. Go about 1/2 inch. Have room to work with. We can secure that. And now I feel like we can almost like... Yeah. Then we can wrap on top. Kind of stop it from moving around on us. And now what we do is we cut strips. And we want to go 5 wide, believe it or not. So, we're going to build now... We essentially built ourselves a platform. We essentially widened the hook, giving ourselves more room to tie lead, is why we did that. And we were able to add more weight. The 12-inch articulated monster. Oh yeah, I remember that one you posted in Discord. Very nice. Yeah, you know, throwing really big flies like that, man, it's tough. Even big beast flies, throwing them from shore. I fished one in the fall like all day, and I was like shot by the time I was done. It definitely helps you're fishing from a boat or a kayak, right? And you can fish them a little bit more effectively. But fishing from shore with big flies is... I don't recommend doing it for like 5 hours at a time. It's definitely... You'll give yourself like... You'll throw out your shoulder or something. So now we're just going to line these up. I'm not going to use too many thread wraps. I just want to kind of get them lined. I can still work with them. You want to start off in the middle and then build out. That's how I do it. Which again, this is just like almost a crazy amount of lead wire, but it just works. So you can't question the genius of Mark Sadati. It just works. Now we got to make sure it's even. So that's why we loosely wrap it. And we look at it from the top. We want to make sure it's even. And then we do that. Supposedly, we're supposed to do that 2 more times. I'm just going to do it 1 more time because this hook is already heavy enough. But I'm telling you right now, this thing's going to sink. Right. Like, there ain't no question about it. Not only does this allow the fly to sink evenly to offset the material, and that's why we use synthetics. Synthetics sink quicker than natural materials. If you're trying to fish really deep, don't be fishing bucktail and feathers or at least not a lot of bucktail. The synthetic material, for some reason, just sinks better, and it's also because bucktail is hollow, right? It's naturally buoyant. There's many reasons, but feathers as well. But you use synthetics when you're trying to get down deep. Why not use the weedless weighted hook for this type of fly? I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good question, Chief. If we look up I could look up the hook real quick. It all comes down to hook design as well for the sort of fishing we're doing. Because I don't know if that sort of hook can accommodate, you know, potentially 60-pound bass or something. But I know what you're talking about. Weedless jig hook or something. With the weighted, what's the name of those? I'll probably find it here if I just look. That's kind of it. It's not really a jig. It's like the weighted weedless hook. Maybe I'll type. Yeah, here we go. So, first off, this is going to cause the hook to ride upside down. We're not actually going to have it ride upside down. We're going to have it ride hook point down, hence why the lead's like this. The other thing with this hook design and that lead on there, I mean, it might be worth a try at some point. The fly will be riding upside down, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's going to be hard to be able to... it's going to be hard to be able to tie a big bunker fly, I think, on this sort of hook with the way the lead is. Then again, we have a giant lead thing here on ours, but just from the way the design of the hook is, you know. But you know what? This could be interesting. I think they have these at my local tackle shop. Maybe what we'll do is we'll buy one of these and we'll tie a big fly on it and try it out. In terms of just seeing whether or not the hook, the bend of the hook is viable for a fly, because you can't tie certain flies on certain hook styles, right? And obviously we don't want this crap off the front. We just want a regular one like this one. But I'm curious if these hooks are heavy enough in terms of the bent, like the actual hook, to like land a really big fish. Because a lot of these are used for bass. Or sorry, I just hit my trash can. A lot of these are used for largemouth, right? And I'm curious how much weight we are using in relation to... So I guess at some point I should cut off a bunch of wire for the right amount, and then I should weigh it. Because I don't know if it's going to be a 1/4 of an ounce. You know what I mean? But that's maybe even better. I don't know. Ideally, you do want to still be able to cast the fly. This fly is still castable with a 10 weight, no problem. Need the right leader setup, need the right technique, but you can do it fairly easy with an 11 weight, 10 weight, whatever. If we're getting to like, I guess they have probably different weights as well though. But if we go too heavy, then essentially we're just throwing a jig, and you're just going to break your fly rod or knock yourself out at some point if you're trying to cast it. And it just gets too heavy in general for the fly. For the fly line to manage it, you just start smacking the water and stuff. But I'm curious, like, how much weight are we actually putting on here in relation to something like one of those hooks, right? But it also, I think the big thing is it comes down to the hook style. Whether or not the hook will be capable of, like, landing a big fish. Because, you know, you got to realize, too, if we're fishing at 70, 80 feet for big striped bass off of Block Island or Montauk, the current's so strong there, these are the fastest currents that you're going to have, because it's the Atlantic Ocean wrapping around the farthest point of New York, right? Next best is the Arex GB swim bait hooks. More room on it to tie, but the hook itself is way too light for what you need. Yeah. Well, I think Chief could be on to something. We should try it out, and you can get different weights. It looks like the ones with the less weight on them are less obtrusive. Like this one, you could probably tie a fly on, right? Something like this, it's going to be hard to tie the fly because of the shape of the lead, right? So if it was evenly distributed like this one, this is something you can work with, because this is like essentially having a lead keel, right? But I don't think these hooks are that strong. Maybe though. I don't know. These are like you know, plastic bait hooks. So I don't know if we can wrench up like a really big striper offshore, but who knows? Maybe that might be an interesting, you know, have a fly hook designed with lead wire or lead weight pre-designed like a keel for big flies. There you go. See, Mark, we can't. We got to keep that under wraps. That's like a deal for Mark with some hook company. You know, the one thing is we're gonna make a video. I gotta go catch up with Mark again at some point. We want to go film some discussions, and what I wanted to talk to him about was I feel like there's like a stigma about adding weight to a fly, because you're starting to add weight to the fly, and you're making it uncastable is the idea a lot of times. But it needs to be the right amount of weight added in the right spot, and at some point now we're counteracting the uncastability. But I'm still not 100% sold. I still got to test it myself. You know what I mean? I want to tie 2 flies, quite big and bulky, one with a keel, one without, see which one's easier to cast, for instance. Is one easier to cast in the wind and is one not? I've found that with the weight like this, it's easier to cast in the wind because there's like a bullet. It's like got so much momentum behind the cast that it'll punch through the wind and the wind resistance of a big fly. Because when it's blowing 30 miles an hour, this thing's like a kite in the air, you know? So, it's interesting in terms of that, but... Alright, well there's our keel right there. Big old keel. Enough room on the GB swim bait to tie your own keel to? Yeah, it'll be interesting. And now the thing is, I don't necessarily want the hook to ride hook point up, but now we're getting into territory where we could be fishing in the inlet, where it's 30, 40 foot deep and there's rocks everywhere. And we can swim with a sink tip, and we can have the hook point ride up, like with one of those weighted hooks. And we won't snag, which could be a pretty big deal. You know, that's a whole type of fly in itself. You could tie in something like that. The lawn lead keel weight? Yeah. Now, there's something to be said about having the keel positioned in where we have it here. Now, we kind of want it forward, but we want room to work with so we can tie our fly and not have too much bulk near the front. But the idea by having the weight in the area where it is kind of more forward, but also distributed somewhat near center of the fly, this is going to help offset the wind resistance of the material. Also, we need to start tying this fly because I got to get so many flies done tonight. But I just can't help it. I like, you know, I get into these discussion about weighted keels. Let me go wash my hands real quick so I don't get lead poison, and then we'll tie this thing. Hold on. Always wash your hands after working with lead. All right. So, also for some reason I have like no audio coming out of my right headphone, so that's good. All right. What we're gonna do is tie a big old bunker fly. Now, he wants some feathers and flash and stuff like that, which we will do. I'm going to be honest with you, I think it's better to tie it like this, but he wants feathers and flash, so what I'll do is I'll take really long saddle hackle, kind of like this, and we're going to tie probably about 6 of these, something like this, and some lawn flash sticking out the back, right? Essentially what we're going to do. And we'll probably use the synthetic as a, what do you call it? Oh, I forgot to do the wire thing too. I got to remember. So this one will definitely be for me, but we got to do the wire section. I forgot. Essentially what you do is you just take the wire and you loop it and then tie it on there for the trailer hook. I guess we could do it. Well, no, the idea is you kind of want it running through the hook eye. So yeah, I'll tie this one for myself without it. But all right. So that means, whatever, I'm just going to add feathers and flash to the next one. I got to do the loop, yada, yada, yada. I just want to get the proportions and figure out how we tie a nice looking slammer. So we're just going to add feathers and flash to the other one, but this one will be for me then. Being that I already screwed it up. Let's take out some nice kind of belly colors. Well, if this is the case too, I'm tying this one for myself. I'm just going to tie this one in a brighter color. I'm not going to worry about whether it's got a white belly or yada yada yada, because essentially Mark ties these in all yellow or chartreuse, whatever colors. You got to realize at certain depths, certain colors literally just turn gray, right? So I think we're going to use mostly a lot of these colors, but I'm also going to add some more traditional bait fish colors to it as well to make them visually pleasant to us. Oh yeah, I mean, check out that right there. You can't even see how long this wig hair is, but it's like 40 inches long or something. Oh, this is really nice. Thanks again to, shout out again to Jay for hooking me up with these awesome colors. We're going to put these away. We're going to stay with the nice bright stuff. All right. So, let's start off with this giant stuff, shall we? And we're going to be using different chartreuses and yellows throughout this, I think. Now, just looking at this, I believe it's mostly V-tied. Also some... no, it's like mostly V-tied. Some potentially high-low tie, if you will. So, we're going to just try and build this profile up. Let me see how many ties he does. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is all 1? So 5. The last one's all 1. So there's only 5 ties in total, by the way. Which is not a lot. So, this stuff is quite long. Now this, if we take it at this length and fold it in half, what's it going to be? Because we could just tie it on. No, so we do want to tie something quite long. Kind of like that length. Nah, we're going to make it, man. Yeah, working with this, some of this stuff's going to be interesting. So, let me get my scissors here. I'm sorry, I'm just cutting some of this off camera because it's so long. So I can actually work with it. Okay. Now, we also want to get the ends tapered because some of this stuff is just so long. So this can get cut in half here because it's ridiculously long. Yeah, I haven't touched this stuff yet. This is the wig hair. I haven't used any of it or nothing. Yeah, it's still quite long. So let's take some of this. I'm just pulling out the really long stuff and I'm going to cut it in half. Because we want it to be right about there. Yeah, essentially like super hair or slinky fiber. This stuff's more like super hair that I'm working with right now as opposed to slinky fiber, I'd say. You can also just cut it and kind of taper it. After you cut it, you can pull on the ends a little bit, so you get a natural shape to it. And then we should be good to go. There we go. And again, like something like this is a good amount of material in one section we're tying here, for instance, right? But that's where the lead wire comes in to offset it. So this, I mean, this should be a pretty good amount. If we're looking at the first section here and how much he uses a fairly decent amount. Something like that. Mind you, there's some extra, but... So we almost want more. The price is right. No, shout out to Jay for hooking me up. We're going to have to just order a bunch of wig hair online from like freaking Temu or something. Oh, we should put some super glue on here. Is my super glue bottle completely gummed up? It is. Of course. I gotta get a new bottle. This one is almost out. This Amazon bottle I got. Oh, dude, this is like completely gummed up. Alright. I'll just put head cement on it. It'll be fun. This one's for me anyway. Probably don't even need to, but just in case. Gigantic 20-pound bluefish gets a hold of this thing off Montauk. Tears it a new one. So, we're essentially, we could probably get like almost 2 V-ties as well, I think. If we go in front of this, I think he tied a fair amount though in one shot, is what he did. So I almost think we tie a little bit more. So I'm going to cut this and taper it so we can get a nice length to it. Let me also move this so it's not directly in the way of the camera. I got to work on some new emotes for Twitch and YouTube. Twitch, I have like so many emote slots available. They gave me they give you so many animated emote slots too. I got to do something with it. After seeing Mike Ross there. Alright. I'll probably take like half of this and use it, I think. We could probably use all of it, honestly. I think, again, I think he tied a fair amount in there. In one shot, but this should be good. Because, I mean, look, we're actually trying to accurately represent a full adult-sized bunker. Generally, most flies you'll see that are bunker flies, in reality, do not look like a bunker in the water. A 12-inch bunker is gigantic. Even this is very, very close. But bunker are, like, truly, they're very big at this adult size. And having a fly that looks like that in the water is very hard. This is about as close as you're going to get. Even beast flies taper down a lot of times, right? So, I mean, after just handling tons of bunker and shoveling them off the bottom of a boat into vats and stuff, you really kind of understand what their profile looks like. So we're really trying to achieve this, right? And we're going to try and do it with V-ties and high and low ties, essentially. Again, normally, I mean, for the version I'm going to be tying for this dude, I'm going to be putting some flash and some feathers on there, yada, yada, yada. But I'm kind of just figuring out our proportions, right? Again, that's a good amount of material right there. You could probably tie like fucking, excuse my, pardon my French, we could probably tie like 4 flies with that. 4 surf candies. But that's the spine. That's the backbone to our big bunker fly right there. I tied mine about an inch and a half shorter because I'm not going to have a trailer hook on this one. So I'm never going to... I'll make it slightly shorter, about like, 10.5 inches to be a little bit more palatable with just one hook. So they bite it in the right spot. Yeah, so really what I'm doing right now is I'm going to tie these for this dude. I'm trying to figure out like how much material we put in and where, right? Now, we only have like 4 more V-ties. So we really got to make sure we do this right in terms of where we're putting the material and all that, right? Color. Now we're V-tying again. Or high-low tying, so the material needs to be long enough when it's folded in half, essentially. That's the idea. So is that going to be long enough? No. We need to find something that will be. Like this, a chartreuse. Holy cow, this looks nice. That's some beautiful material right here. Oh yeah. It'd be nice to use some more yellow, but I don't have any that's quite long enough. I guess I do have that super long chartreuse, the lighter one, but this is fine. Well, where is that one that we just used? I guess we could use that again, huh? We'll just cut it. So we can keep it somewhat consistent in the color. We'll use this for the next, like, tie or two, I guess. Let me just cut a bunch off. For the length, what are we working with here? It's pretty good. It's kind of right where we want it. We just want it to be almost the same length because we're moving a little bit, but we want it to be a little bit shorter, if you will, so. We'll make like separate piles as well. So we have even amount, top and bottom. Maybe a little bit more on the top, if anything, but. And what we need to do is make the material shorter once we get to the next step, I think. To get that, I'm trying to get that same sort of profile that he does. That's the whole idea. Yeah, this looks good. I guess we could have left it together. We tie this here like that on the belly, one on the top. Again, quite a lot of material, but, you know, when you're trying to tie 12-inch adult-sized bunker. Dude, the freaking keel is so ginormous, it's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous, and I love it. What a chonky unit these hooks are once you got a keel on there. And tying with it, it's ridiculous. But it works. So I need room for 3 more V-ties. I think we can do it. I think this is the correct ratio where we're tying it. Also going to kind of spread it around a little. Want it tied evenly top and bottom. It's pretty important. Now it does look like he also has some tied on the side. Like, what's going on here? So maybe, hold on. It looks like he has a little on the side as well. Maybe I'm going to take a pinch off each top and bottom. And I'll tie a little on the side afterwards, like a side V-tie, which you can do. You'll see here in a sec what I'm talking about. Because we want to cover up some of that side section, I suppose. From the looks of it. Because a fair amount of material. Again, get it level. Oh, dude, I forgot. This is the song from the Animal Battle Revolt Simulator. Remember where we had the, we were doing the Twitch bets on the animals fighting each other. I got that from watching Djibouti's show. It was so much fun. I remember when we were doing that. I was like, what is this song from? This isn't Marble Racing. That's what it was from. If you guys remember. I'm sure the OGs remember. Pitting like giant gorillas and hydras against each other for Twitch points. It's like battle music. Okay, now that we've adequately created this puzzle for ourselves, try not to grab the material from the top or bottom. Again, it's tricky working with the material when it's literally like 12 inches long, but on both sides. And then the forbidden technique. That's right. The side V-tie. This is where I wish I had like a gasp on my soundboard, but I don't. So like, the forbidden technique. All right, this stuff like fell over. Now look at this. Now it's like a, it's a mess. Imagine wearing this on your head though. Like, one thing goes wrong and this wig is destroyed. It's also probably extremely flammable. Something to watch out for. Smoking cigarettes or something. Light up like a firework wearing this stuff on your head. Then again, hair is very flammable too, but you know, it's hair. The forbidden technique of the side V-tie. Yes. Catching them on the Delaware water gap. Very nice. No name drops. Can you tell us where you're catching them? Wait, your name is no name drops. You just dropped the Delaware water gap. Unbelievable. I was going to make a joke like, can you tell us where you were fishing or something? Because your name. But that's awesome. Very nice to hear. Yeah, we're doing pretty good fishing up here in New York. I know they're catching fish up in Massachusetts, I think, as well now. And Rhode Island's starting to see some fish. It didn't like super glue. Gets pretty hot, too. Yeah. Don't forget about the chemical reaction to certain chemicals. All right. Are we doing all right here? Did we add a little too much material? I might want to go a little less on the next one. I mean, that's looking, you know what I mean? It's pretty close. I'd say this is a slightly different material. I probably could go with a little bit less when I tie this. It all depends on the actual material you're using. So now we have 3 more. But at this point, you can see he drastically... We're at, like, here. We're still around the hook point. So now we're going to do 3 more ties, but we're going to reduce the length to about here. Where the medallion is. Big shout out, by the way, to Mark Sadati. Everyone go subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's an amazing fly casting instructor. Fly tyer as well. And, he's an awesome dude to go fishing with, and shout out to him for hooking me up with this fly because I've been meaning to tie more slammers and get better at them, so yeah, something like that. It's perfect. But very nice, very nice. Delaware Water Gap. Where is that? Maine or no? Don't you guys usually? When does your fishing start? Your striper stuff, isn't it like year round essentially, and then dies down in the summer or something, or is it like seasonal as well? So we're gonna move forward. 1, 2, 3. Yep. Trying to make sure I have enough room here, right? You know what? I'm gonna probably take a little bit out of this. I don't want to go too heavy on the material. Mars. Interesting. I didn't know Musk put bass up there already. That'd be such an odd thing. Alright. Go fly fishing on Mars. Artificial. Like stock trout. Like an encapsulated bubble. Go ahead and tie this on the belly. This is nice. It's kind of mixed between white and yellow. Like, these are some crazy wig colors. Like, I don't know what you would call this, but in a wig shop. Like lemon ice cream or wig or something. It's got like the white and the yellow in it. Ah, fuck it, I'm just gonna use it. Slam it on there. A little bit more on the belly. A little too heavy on top. Yeah, a little bit more on the belly. I could just pull some out of the top here and tie it on the belly if I need to. Whoa. Whoa. Let's go back here. Whoa, 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 whoa. Take it easy. It's fighting back. Okay, we're going to make sure this is same size. So we got to go this way for sure. There we go. Maybe a little bit more. Also, this hair got a little tapered out. Might want to cut it a little shorter next time. I mean, this is going to look sick, but kind of want to go for that mark profile, but still look good. Might even look better. Fly fishing for trout on Mars is probably what people thought about bringing them down to New Zealand. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Or like Chile or Argentina, they brought down sea trout, bunch of rich Scotsmen or somebody, you know, like some English dudes. Yes, I think we should be catching gigantic brown trout here. Destroying like native fish populations. That's why there's a whole sea trout fishery in Argentina. Is this guy who went down there? I think he was a Scotsman. Missed his fishing so much and was like, I can set up a sea trout fishery down here. Like, this is like the perfect place. This is like the same thing as like Scotland almost. I'm pretty certain. Fishing with Paul Yun, he talks about it, but that was a while ago. So again, feathers and flash. Only difference with this one. This one I do want to go shorter though, so I'm gonna cut it like this. And then we can go ahead. We got 2 more V-ties, if you will. Figure out the length, yada yada yada. Believe it or not, they are native trout in North. There are native trout in North Africa. Hard to believe, but it's true. Yeah, there are native trout in like Turkey, like the border of Turkey and Iraq, places like that. I think Persia as well, or Iran. There are native trout species in like all sorts of mountainous places. Like you said, Africa has some. I don't think like South America had trout. Central America maybe, but I don't think South America. But that's interesting. What sort of trout species? Are they all dead now, or are they still a thing? Yeah, there was a book, I forgot who it was written by, but this one dude, he meets this crazy dude somewhere in Europe or something, and they go on this trip all over the world catching trout along the 48th or some sort of parallel, on the some sort of latitudinal line on the planet. And I know one thing, they were in this area where in Turkey, probably where it's like a lot of Kurdish attacks or whatever, so there's tons of military everywhere, and they were like essentially sneaking into these rivers and like documenting new trout species or something like that is what the book was following. This guy who's like a scientist, but he's just like a trout bum, some European guy. It was some American kid wrote it. I forgot the name of it though. It was a pretty good book though. I read it. Rainbows and browns. Oh, interesting. Well, what? The rainbow trout is the only trout native. No, were rainbows brought over as well to the United States, or are brook trout the only native trout, or are rainbows native to the West? I always forget. I know brown trout are not native to North America. They're brought over from Europe, but I'm pretty certain rainbow trout are native, right, on the West Coast of the United States. For any trout bums here in the chat. I kind of forget. Yeah, on the Pacific side. I'm pretty certain. All right, we're getting kind of bunkerish looking here, huh? Probably on the last tie, we're going to tie a little bit on the side, but Pacific Northwest, yeah. Yo, what's going on, Rat Chief? How you doing? Yeah, so the western, or the rainbows out west are native, or most of them are native, yeah. Out here on the East Coast, we only have native brook trout, the native trout species. I'm sure there's like char and things like that, but up north or whatever. But bro, what are you up to, Chief? What are you doing? Or I should say Red Chief, because there's a chief in YouTube, so. All right, now we're going to go with the green for the head, baby. Yeah. We could go with something wacky, but no, we're going to keep it chartreuse. It's going to be about that length. Maybe a little shorter, actually. Yeah. You kind of taper it down slightly. You almost want the top to be a little bit longer than the belly as well. But that's okay. Something like this. Something like that. Like that, like that. Good here. Good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. Hopefully everyone's having a good start to their weekend. It is Friday after all, so happy Friday, of course. I will be fly tying all weekend. It doesn't mean anything when you work for yourself. But I can go fishing during the week, all this stuff, yada yada yada. So it's nice being able to pick when you want to work, but that also means like I have to stay on top of it, right? 'Cause it's very easy to be like, oh, well, let me do this, let me do that, let me go fishing all day. When in reality, it's like, all right, hey, Mike, you get those 800 flies done that you need done? I'm like, oh God, what did I do? I went fishing for the entire month of April and didn't catch anything. I should have been working. But it's all good. It's all fun and games. I'm happy I got a good amount of stuff done. I'm going to continue cranking out those roosterfish flies. And then I'm still working on stuff for local shops. I have, for instance, these bunker flies, as well as some other stuff for people on Instagram and yada yada yada. So I'm staying busy. It's good. The goal is, we're trying to fix the boat. So I was hoping I could do that doing other things, but it looks like I'm gonna have to take the initiative and just tie a bunch of flies. So that and make some banner YouTube videos. Hopefully, stuff has a nice crinkle to it. It does. It's like a mix between, I would say it's interesting. I've been tying with so much slinky fiber recently. This stuff is like the crinklier slinky fiber you get. Sometimes the slinky fiber is very smooth and soft, and sometimes it's much more of a crinkle to it. It's much easier just to say crinkle than crinklier. So I think it's very similar to that, I would say. And there's probably some fly fuzz fiber, I guess, but it doesn't have too much. You know what I'm talking about? How some of these synthetics it's so crinkly that it's almost like unwieldy to work with, or it's so ultra stiff. This is much more subtle to it. The stuff in the rear, I guess, is kind of like a Steve Farrar fiber, soft slinky fiber, kind of like Supreme hair for surf candy almost. It's kind of hard to describe. Some of these wig hairs are like, it's made in the same places that the fly tying material is, but they just like change the setting slightly on the chemical heat machine or whatever the hell they're using. You know what I mean? I don't want too big of a beak on here, but hey, Mark's got a giant old beak, so nothing wrong with a little thread head on there, you know what I mean? Now gluing some eyes on here, though, that's a whole hoopla, hootenanny. Let's see. I guess we just glue the eyes on, and then we can look at it. No matter what, we gotta glue them on there, right? That's kind of what we're looking for right there. In the water, it's going to open up a little too, so the whole idea is we want to have like a large enough profile. It's almost like maybe I add one more V-tie in there, so I can get a little bit more height. Damn, dude, these hooks are going to sink. These hooks are so heavy. I mean, it's a literal tuna fly hook, essentially, so what do you expect? But always good to see a craftsman on Twitch just doing his crafts. Well, if you stick around a little bit, once I get done tying this, we do the hot tub stream after every fly tying stream. And we also got like one of those clear volleyballs that sometimes I sit on while I tie the flies as well, with the webcam from underneath. But yeah, Twitch is like the wild, wild west. I just got a couple people I follow that I watch. But if you start just going and looking around, you'll find some stuff. I don't know if you'll be better off or worse, but you could definitely get lost in the sauce on Twitch, going to random stream categories. But thank you, I appreciate that. But yeah, stick around. We got the hot tub stream after. Can you use the fly in the hot tub, though? Yeah, the only problem is when it's, like, dyed feathers, you know, all the dye comes out. And just, like, next thing you know, your hot tub's pink. Nah, I ain't got a hot tub. We just film it in a cold bathtub. It's like Ace Ventura when he takes the shower and he's crying in the cold shower. I just streamed that. Get way more subs. Alright, we're going to slap a little E6000 on here. You can pick this up at any hardware store, essentially. Well, at least in the US. I don't know about you EU folk. You might need to get some German... You probably get some crazy German aeronautical glue or something. You build like a whole airplane out of it. Made by Volkswagen or something. Used E6000 today. It's great stuff. It is fantastic. Now, the eye will pop off over time. If you just use this and you catch a bunch of fish, we are going to apply a little liquid fusion to it without trying to mess with the shape of the fly. This is also why I wanted to tie one for myself so we could do this test. I've been doing this on a lot of flies because liquid fusion is not anywhere near as obtrusive as using UV resin in messing with the shape of the fly, because it's water-based and it dries much thinner than almost anything else. So really the only difference is we're going to have the wire. I'll ask him too. I'm going to send him a photo like, hey, you know, first off, yours will have feathers and flash. Do you want the wire off the back? That's up to you. It's probably a good thing to ask before I do that. I think if you really want to catch big fish, you should. I'm a little worried about fishing with the trailer hook and deep hooking a bass because I'm, you know, I'm very considerate, or just I'd like to, that's always in the back of my mind is like I want to catch a big fish, but I don't want to kill a big fish just to catch it. You know what I mean? I don't want it to die just because I wanted to hook it. So like, I'm a little apprehensive about fishing big trailer hooks, but then again, I mean, they're 30, 40, 50 pound bass. We're talking 48, 50 inches. Right, you know, I mean, you see the hooks that people use for live bait and bunker and all that. That's, you know, but if a fish does swallow a big 5-aught hook in the gills, I mean, it's drastically reducing its chances of surviving. I mean, we can say straight bass are resilient all we want, but when a fish has built up lactic acid and you've caught it in 60 foot of water and been fighting it for the past 15 minutes, you know, it's like you fighting for your life against a kraken trying to drag you in the water, and then it stabs you in the lungs. You know what I mean? So your chances of surviving go down quite a bit. So I always like to, you know, I'm trying to make sure that, especially nowadays, like really trying to think about catch and release rates, stuff like that. So I would like to tie these on like big circles. I would like to see what it's like having a circle trailer hook. Can you even use a circle trailer hook? Or is that going to work? Is that not going to work? You know what I mean? That sort of thing. Because there's a lot that goes into the reason why people tie things the way they do and why Mark does, right? So there's a reason why he has the trailer hook off the rear, is because sometimes big striped bass, you know, we like to think about striped bass, they don't have teeth. They almost always bite stuff by the head if they can and just swallow it, essentially. Or they just swallow whatever they're trying to eat from the force of them opening their mouth, and that's why we see boils. A lot of times they won't even be able to probably get their little micro teeth on it in their mouth because of the force of the pressure of their mouth opening will just suck a bait fish into its gullet, essentially. And that's how you kind of deep hook a lot of fish. When they come up and they turn on it and they grab it, they'll grab it generally around the head. And that's why you hook them almost in the corner of the mouth, like almost every time. But when you have a fish suck the fly in on a pause and it opens its mouth, that's when you kind of hook them in the gills and you have an issue. But, so is it even possible? You know what I mean? I'm sure everything's possible, right? But, so it is something to think about and stuff like that. I just hate seeing a big bass being hooked in the gills and the blood dripping down it and, you know, trying to revive the fish and just watching it lackadaisically swim away, not knowing if it's going to go belly up. That's not my jam, right? So stuff we're gonna have to try out and see. But if somebody, it's always up to the person I'm tying the flies for. So, and Mark knows what he's doing for sure. But I don't know. It's something that I try to be a little bit more conscious about. So, I'm curious whether or not fishing a trailer or not fishing a trailer is gonna be that big of a difference. So you're probably gonna miss more fish, but you're probably gonna have less of a chance of potentially gill hooking a fish as well. So I don't know, because you're stripping it, you're pausing it, it's down 80 feet. There's a good chance the fly just gets inhaled, but I don't think you need 2 hooks ever for stripers. Yeah, I'm always in that mindset. That's pretty much how I've been like my whole life. I've almost never fished tandem hooks for striped bass. I hate plugs for that reason. They'll have 3 treble hooks on them. You know what I mean? Like, how many more goddamn... You have 9 hook points on that thing already. But, so we used to take the treble... We would take all the hooks off but the rear one, or all the hooks but the middle one. And a lot of times we would switch them to single hooks from trebles, because if you fish at night, you get a treble hook and a bluefish, and the bluefish hooks the treble in your hand and starts shaking around. It's like the worst experience of your life. So we just stopped fishing trebles for a while. And they just tear fishes up, too, man. I hate... The trebles just destroy fish. They're massive hooks, too. You see a lot of striped bass with their mouths. They have giant holes in their mouths and stuff from people catching them. It's from these, like, fucking 6-odd treble hooks. There's, like, just tearing their lips open. But so it's all, it's stuff to think about, right? If we're catch and release, we want to ensure that we're doing the best we can to ensure the fish is going to survive, right? I also stopped taking fish out of the water for photos like I used to, even though I make content and all this now. I'm really trying to be conscious about keeping fish wet, keeping them, not mishandling them and stuff. Even though I've been like that for years, I used to like take them out of the water for the camera and this and that. Nowadays, I'm like, it's not even worth it. So, but personally, at least for me, at least fishing them from a boat, they generally are going to get it if you found them. At least fishing for them from a boat, they are generally going to get it if you found them. I'm trying to conceptualize. What do you mean by that? It's like right on the edge. It was almost there. I almost got it. What's going on, Barfy? How you doing? So, by the way, big old slammer. I'm just letting the eyes dry a little bit because the eyes will, the E6000 expands once it's done. And I think what we'll do is I'll probably just put a little liquid fusion later. I have to what I've learned is if you don't let the E6000 dry fully and you put the the liquid fusion on, it sometimes causes the E6000 not to fully cure and it'll expand. It kind of messes with the head. So I always like to let this fully dry and then I compress it. I push it in as tight as I can to make sure it's got a solid connection to the hook and the material underneath it. Because it will expand as it dries, and then I'll hit it with liquid fusion. And the liquid fusion isn't going to go all over. It's going to go back like this. And we're going to coat the eye like that. We might apply a little bit to the base, but I'm thinking we might not even do that. Kind of like the Squimpish Hollow, I will go back some. And maybe we will, because that'll also help us keep the profile. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm going to have to let this dry, though. But what I need to do is I need to tie the rest of these finish the rest of these kinky mothers. So what I need to do is finish trimming, which I don't have many, but I do need to finish trimming them, and then I need to start gluing eyes like we just did here in liquid fusion. So that is what I need to do. If you put it in front of them during a boil, they're going to get the hook in their mouth. Oh yes, okay, gotcha. Yes. Yeah. It's most of the time when you're like just blind casting, right? And on a pause or something like that. And, you'll see this a lot with poppers and even bluefish. Sometimes the way bluefish eat it, they come at it like going like as fast as they can, open their mouths like a freaking giant trevally, like coming at this thing. And, it must be just so much force that they just like swallow it. You know what I mean? They don't even bite it, I think. Or they bite it and it's like an instant reaction. Because they probably, when they bite a bait fish, they bite it in half and they instantly open their mouth and like suck the bait in because there's chunks of bait, you know, like the front half of the bait isn't in their mouth. So I don't know, bluefish though, like they just swallow poppers. That's why we started fishing circle hooks for bluefish. Is that hair extensions? This is wig material. So I guess technically different. I don't know, but essentially like the same thing. I will say this material is completely different than the hair extensions we used. The hair extensions was more like surf candy material. This is more like slinky fiber or yak hair. This wig hair. So I guess it is technically different. It is technically wig hair, not the hair extensions. But I'm sure it's like, it's all just a different manufacturer or something than the one we used, you know. But there we go. So let's compare. Did I use enough material? Not enough? Oh, wow, I thought we used too much. I think we might have... Oh, no, that's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty good. Mark's fly's a little bit larger profile, top and bottom. Could probably focus some more hair, top and bottom. But, I mean, that's pretty good. You know what I mean? God, getting this thing out of here. This is like a massive hook. It's like a marlin. Like, you can catch marlin on these hooks. You know what I mean? I don't know about like a 500-pounder, but 200 pounds, no problem. Easily catch some big sharks on something like this size. Yeah, looks good. Nice big bunker profile to me. I mean, and we're talking about like, you know, 10-inch bunker. That's kind of what we're looking for, right? This is about like, I'd say 2 inches shorter than Mark's one. I'm going to tie his, the customers a little bit longer. But when they're about 10 inches, this is kind of the profile we're looking for. So if I am going to go 12, then I do need to increase probably the profile ever so slightly. But I mean, I guess that's kind of what we're looking for right there. You know what I mean? And again, we got to let these dry before we do it. But then we're going to go liquid fusion on it. Yeah, there we go. Not too shabby. I dig it. Yeah, I think if we liquid fusion it and we do it right, we can also probably help keep its shape and profile right. You know what I mean? Just got some red Rust-Oleum paint in my hair. What the hell are you, what are you spray painting right now? What do I use? Do I use the Rust-Oleum or do I forgot what brand I use for all my miniature priming. I prime all my Warhammer stuff. But I forgot what it is. I've been using this primer for years. It's so damn good. It's like the best spray paint I've ever used. Just works so well in general for just everything. Generic all-around spray paint. I forgot, though, which one it was. It might be a Rust-Oleum. One of the Rust-Oleum mats. Painting some rocking chairs. All right. Very nice. Man, when's the last time I sat in a rocking chair? I feel like it's been like since... It's been a while. It's been a while since I sat in a rocking chair. We don't have one ourselves. All right, very nice. Well, chat, I hope you enjoyed. I got to get a bunch of work done, so that's what I'm going to be doing here. I'm just going to probably watch a stream myself, Djibouti Show. Check them out if you haven't. I know they're probably streaming at this point, playing something. But hopefully you enjoyed some kinky muddler trimming and a big old wig Sadati slammer. Yeah, that's pretty much how we're going to do it. We could probably just portion the material ever so slightly different just to get a slightly different size to the fly overall. But, I mean, that's essentially it right there, you know what I mean? That's what we're looking for. So, I'm happy with it. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the stream. I tried looking up wig hair and I could only find wigs. Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of times you might just find wigs, though. Like Mark was using an actual wig that he got at a gas station. So, I don't know if you have to cut them off yourself or what, but But thank you so much for hanging out, guys. Appreciate it. Jumbo Braids. Okay, there you go. Jumbo Braids. Check it out. Doc's got the inside information, so look that up. But thank you so much for hanging out. And any newer folks here as well, feel free to either subscribe on YouTube if you're new to the channel or follow on Twitch as well. And yeah, and go check out the new how to wet fly swing or how to grease line fish for striped bass video on YouTube that just came out today. And potentially maybe expand your horizons when it comes to the different techniques you have in your pocket for fly fishing in saltwater. So you can essentially fish for striped bass like it's salmon. But thank you so much, chat. You guys have an awesome night and enjoy your weekend, all right? I'll see you soon, and we got some more fishing videos on the way and some more fly tying stuff that I'm working on. I got a plan, but we'll see you guys, all right? Take it easy. Peace.